Growthpoint has entered into a deal with licensed electricity trader Etana Energy. The deal is the first of its kind, and through it, electricity will be sent through to Growthpoint's commercial property buildings across various jurisdictions in the country. Joining me now is Growthpoint's SA CEO, Estienne de Klerk. Estienne, thanks so much for joining us today. So, 195 gigawatts of renewable energy a year, an exciting move, and just in addition to the other green projects Growthpoint has been a part of. Just take us through this deal and what it entails.
Yes, it's quite an innovative transaction that we've done with our partners Etana and Serengeti, who ultimately the generator of the power. It's probably the first transaction in the country which is multi-regions or jurisdictions wielding through different distribution networks with various municipalities, and then it also is multi-building and comes from various generating renewable generators, which is wind and hydro. So it's pretty exciting from that perspective. We have it's a project that's been worked on for some years, in that many of what has really been concluded here wasn't possible maybe 2 years ago, given the regulatory constraints that we have had in the South African context in the electricity industry.
Now, the power purchasing agreement consists of a mixture of solar, hydro, as well as wind energy. Why this mix in particular?
Yes, so obviously solar, when the sun's down at night, isn't very effective. It doesn't generate particularly a lot of electricity at that time. So we need base load, and ultimately hydro is probably one of the most efficient ways of generating that base load. And we've been very fortunate to work with Serengeti, and we're busy constructing a new hydroelectric power station in the Lesotho Highlands project. And that project ensures water supply through the hydro power station on a constant basis. So it gives you power generation 24 hours a day, and we've taken the full offtake off that hydroelectric power station. And then we're supplementing it with wind power, which is also a base load. The wind typically blows all day through these farms, and provides sustainable electricity supply through the whole day and night. And then what solar clearly in our country is very efficient, so we've supplemented with that. But the idea is that for 32% odd of our portfolio today, by next year, so this will all kick in the middle of next year, and the idea is that for the bulk of our properties, at least 70% of the power to these buildings now will be green power. And we can then commit to our clients that would like this green power and have their own ESG sort of ambitions, that we can supply them with green power, which is a huge positive for them.
Now, surely this is just another initiative that gets the company closer to that carbon neutral target by 2050, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think this should accelerate that ambition. Certainly, Growthpoint has been on a journey for more than 15 years, where we started very early, before sort of ESG was a fad and a popular used word in business. And started with basic commercial initiatives which looked at reducing the flow of water through our buildings, through the taps, etc. We certainly replaced pretty much most of our lighting in our buildings with lower usage lighting, and many of these projects over time have obviously added to our buildings being much more efficient from an electricity perspective. But if you ultimately, we were quite limited by the regulations in that if you look at an office building, you can't put solar on the roof. It is efficient to do it at our shopping centers and even at our industrial properties, where you've got big surface areas you can cover on the roof or in the parking lot. But, office building has quite a small roof area, and if you had to cover the whole roof, which we have tried, you're not going to get than more than 10 to 15% of the total capacity there. So you do need larger generation solutions, and this structured transaction that we've got here really does open the door to ensuring that we can supply our broader portfolio with green, efficient, sustainable power.
Estienne, I just want to come back to those regulatory concerns, right? So you did mention that the deal is a multi-jurisdiction deal. I can imagine that the admin that could possibly arise when dealing with different municipalities. How has that been going?
Yes, so that's where Etana is a great partner to have. They are one of the 4 licensed energy traders in the country, and certainly I don't know if you followed the media late last year, but we were the first company to really wield power from one address to another address. We did so from our Constantia shopping centre in Cape Town through the grid in Cape Town to our 36 Hunstradum property in the foreshore, and that really was the last sort of key in opening up the grid from an operational perspective. So we've sort of tested it, and it definitely works. And really, in the end of the day, we will work closely with Etana. They are the trader, so effectively we're buying the power through them. They in turn have entered into agreements with Serengeti, and as a collective, it means that we can then wield potentially through multiple municipalities. I mean, we're speaking to, obviously, Cape Town was the first. There's well-developed discussions with Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, and several other municipalities, Nelson Mandela Bay. So I think over time, you will find that most of the municipalities will open their grid. They obviously receive a fee for making their grid available on a usage basis. So from their perspective, it also makes sense. In the end of the day, I think all these municipalities are quite desperate to see the power situation that we have in our country improve. And really, to be honest, the only way that that's really going to happen is that the private sector is going to be stepping up on the generation side, and these kind of arrangements is what will ultimately make the grid available to get the power to the ultimate customer.
Now, before I let you go, when will they get that relief? When will the energy be made available to your tenants?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're busy building this hydro power station that will be commissioned in the middle of next year, so middle of 25. And then some of these wind farm arrangements will also be, and developments will also be completed in next year. So probably most of it will be in next year, but we're already talking to Etana on a couple of other solutions. They have other power producers that they are talking to, and potentially we would be able to maybe acquire already from some of these other power producers some surplus power that they have to wheel into the grid to our assets.
Estienne, thank you so much for your time and those insights. That was Growthpoint's SA CEO, Estienne de Klerk.